know what he's talking
Did you
about.
just call your wife a thorn?
No, I said
sure.
that marriage has bumps along the way.
What are some of those
Yeah,
thorns?
Cheryl, did you hear that, Cheryl? I said marriage is awesome. Lisa,
It is awesome.
apparently marriage has thorns. So just wanted
I
to.
guarantee. Well,
Hey, we're so glad you're joining us today
I'll wait for
for Pastors React. We got some really great questions we want to ask. Today's a really great question. We're going to start off here, though. We want to ask these guys. Guys, tell me about your first date. First date, you're with your wife, not with not your first date, but your first date with your current wife.
Current wife.
Current wife.
our only wife.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
previous or
okay.
future.
All right, so mine, my first date with Mallory was we were supposed to go get coffee, and this is going to sound bad, I was tired, just gotten back from a mission trip recently, and I was like, I don't really want to go get coffee, but I was like, okay, it'll last 30 minutes, and I'll go home. I had 2 Redbox movies in the car because I was just going to go
Back in
back
the
to
day.
my apartment.
Goodness.
But we ended up having coffee, and it lasted for 5 hours. We hung out, and
At Starbucks the whole time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then they kicked us out because they were shutting it down.
And there was magic.
There's magic.
Yeah, Joshua, first date, where'd you go?
This is why I don't put a lot of effort putting in dates, because the 2 or 3 times I've tried to do it, the Lord has said otherwise. We were supposed to go hiking. We were supposed to go. No.
Expound
That's
upon
what
all that.
happened.
Yeah. So we were supposed to go hiking, and a pop-up thunder shower came out of nowhere. So I had to quickly readjust, and I made plans to go to an Italian restaurant on the square. We were going to go get coffee. I looked up, saw the times of the Italian restaurant and everything. We get to the square. The website was still running, but the restaurant had closed down like 3 days prior.
Ooh.
So we couldn't go there. And I think we just picked a restaurant on the square and ate, and then went to one of the parks and just sat by the lake.
Rest was history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
ours was in high
everything
school.
I planned went away.
We went to a football game together. She went to a different high school than I did. I was a senior. She was a junior, and we went to her football game, and then we went to Chili's afterwards. And
Wow.
that was pretty much it.
High school sweetheart.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
So y'all got married pretty young, right?
So I was 21. She was 20 when we got married.
Just
but
basic.
statistically, that is not good. But it's worked out very. 12
Yeah.
years.
Okay.
So this is big.
Okay, I've been
You look at
married
statistics. That's what it is.
that's true.
in May 2020, married 15 years.
Wow.
Together, I don't know, 18 or 19. And the first day we went on, I remember it was Applebee's and Lord of the Rings. The very first Lord of the Rings just came out.
Best movies ever.
So yeah, I just remember when those screechy things kept coming out, she would just really get scared, and I thought it was really cute. Man, I was, the Dementors.
They're called,
I don't know what they're called.
They're called ring wraiths.
I actually
Yeah.
have not seen that. Any
What?
of those movies. I've seen none
Gosh,
of
we
them.
find out dude doesn't like Christmas and no Lord of the Rings. Wow. All right, so that kind of brings
They're
us to our question today. Our question today
Uh-huh.
came from YouTube, so thank you folks for giving us some feedback. And the question is, what is a godly perspective on dating? This was asked by a young lady, and she was talking about how she had read some statistics that men are actually less willing to ask women out. People are getting married later in life, and more marriages are failing now more than ever. So she's kind of having a hard time finding a God-fearing guy in a godly relationship. So what about a godly perspective on dating? All right, I want to start with this. I want to first say that this is an important foundation. Marriage is awesome. Like, I think that there is a perception that marriage is like a ball and chain, or not many marriages make it. But a godly marriage, I completely believe with 100% integrity, is the best gift of life apart from salvation. To have a partner in life, to have a person that is so different than you that God uses them to sanctify you in a lot of frustrating ways, but also a best friend that is there to do life together with in a way that is unique among anyone else. So
Yeah, a lot of people believe that marriage is just this, like you said, bed of roses. But, we forget that roses have thorns. So, sometimes it's difficult, it's challenging, it's frustrating, but it's a lot of fun, and it's an adventure to not be taken lightly. So,
I don't know what he's talking
Did you
about.
just call your wife a thorn?
no, I said
sure.
that marriage has bumps along the way.
What are some of those
yeah,
thorns?
Cheryl, did you hear that, Cheryl? I said marriage is awesome. Lisa,
It is awesome.
apparently marriage has thorns. So just wanted
I
to.
guarantee. Well, coronavirus season would say that.
To go back to this lady's question, you did say it was a
Yeah.
okay. I just feel bad because guys are dumb.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
I mean, they're dumb, especially when it comes to dating. I was dumb when it came to dating. I wish I would have been discipled earlier in my life because it's really hard as a young guy. I started dating when I was like 15, 16, and you try to figure out this new world of dating with all of your emotions, hormones, hurts. I mean, you live by, and so what I got into a cycle was dating through insecurities and trying to match culture and try to bring it into also my Christian life. And it was awful. Like, I don't miss dating at all.
Yeah, can we say American dating, especially in the high school world, is stupid? Can we just say that?
Well,
you guys agree with that? I mean, is there
looking back at my life, and I just feel so bad. Like, I was so confused, like and so to this girl, that there is hope. I mean, once I started dating in a biblical way after relationships, when I finally said, okay, Lord, I'm going to get serious about my walk with you. I'm going to get serious about my dating life.
Right.
Because I think a lot of guys, they try to have their Christian life and then there's the dating life. And it's...
Or even their career in that.
Yeah, but when you bring them together,
right.
and that's the point I finally got to, said, okay, Lord, you're going to define how I date and the parameters. I'm not going to live by insecurities. I'm not going to try to match my other friends or culture. That's when dating became fun, and the Lord brought my wife into the picture because He knew I had to be sanctified and ready to date. So I just feel bad for her because I know guys are dumb. And,
Guys are dumb.
And
I
was dumb.
Yeah,
especially young guys? The younger, the dumber.
Yeah.
I think for
offense.
me, I was very much focused on career. I was focused on, that next step in life. And then, like you said, I mean, it wasn't until I took my walk with Jesus very, very serious that I was able to love my wife in the way that I could fully understand what that is. And really it goes back to Mark 12, where Jesus says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. I think that's where foundationally it begins. I think for guys and for ladies, you have to start there before you can start to really understand what you want, what the other person wants, and then truly how a relationship is supposed to be. If you focus on Jesus first, then that relationship is gonna mesh with that as well.
Joshua, dating in the Bible. Where is American dating in the Scripture? Show us how Jesus
It
told
is nowhere in Scripture.
Wait, what?
In fact, when you look at marriages in Scripture, they were all prearranged by either the family and a lot of times under the Lord's leadership and guidance. Obviously, you don't see the American version of dating in Scripture at all, but I had a very wise middle school pastor that poured into me and taught me. No. Pastor Rick Herman, who really taught me that, you date for the purpose of marriage because that is what Scripture talks about, not the dating, but the marriage. And I remember him teaching me, and I learned as other men poured into me that the Bible is actually very clear on what the Lord expects out of a marital relationship. I know we're talking about dating, but I think if we start looking at what God expects out of marriage, you can work backwards and then see what God expects out of dating. And
Agreed.
Ephesians 5 is very clear on it. Colossians 3 is very clear on it of this is what men are to live out and exemplify in the relationship, and this is what ladies are to. And so I think if you're a young single believer, that there's two things you should be striving for. One, you should be striving to be if you're a guy, the guy that God has called you to be. If you're a lady, the lady that God has called you to be. And then two, you should be praying for and actively seeking somebody that will fulfill the opposite of what Scripture says should be. And I know that it can be difficult, in reference to the lady or the woman's question of, I can't find any guys who are doing it or living this out. And I think for her part especially, my advice to her would be just to live out and grow in your own faith, like what Andrew was talking about, and strive to be that godly woman that God has called you to be, and trust that the Lord will call out a godly man to meet you there. But until then, I think the worst thing any of our young people could do is try to force God's will in the dating realm.
Oh, and I would just say to any guys that we have listening, do not make the mistakes that I'm sure all of us have made, and even myself. Don't date out of insecurities. Don't date out of your flesh. Don't date because you're just going to cause heartache, hurt for yourself, for the people you're dating. I mean,
And
just don't do it. I wish I would have listened to that advice.
And don't make dating a mission field. Like either don't look at somebody and say like, oh, they really could love Jesus and I could be the one that point. It's like, hold up.
Can we all agree, guys, that being married, we all have amazing, beautiful wives, but the longer you're married, the more companionship is important than beauty.
Yes.
And I don't mean that in any kind of there obviously needs to be some level of physical attraction, but when it comes down to it, when you get into the bulk of your married life, the years of marriage, it is so much more important to have a good friend than to have somebody that arouses your makes your blood. Yeah, okay. Maybe a bad choice of words.
I knew it would go.
Okay, so listen, like Josh said, I'm the old guy. I was actually his middle school pastor. Probably been married the longest.
Ralph.
I have 5 kids, and so this is something
So let's talk practically though. Okay, let's talk from a practical perspective of a guy.
I got some. Yeah.
Let's go practical perspective for a guy. Because see, here's where I get a lot of conversations or a lot of people asking the question of do the girls ask the guy out? Do the guy ask the girl out? How long should you date? How old should you be when you start dating? How old should you be when you get married? All those things. And I would say like we need to give some practical applications.
Well, okay, here's one.
First of all, I would say, guys, like take the initiative.
Yeah,
Ask a girl out.
Man up.
I mean,
I know there are
Ephesians 5. You talked about the guy.
I know there's exceptions to this rule, but for whatever reason, at least in my personal experience, age 23, it seems like there's a switch in a guy's mind
I
where
was thinking the same thing.
it's like it's time to grow up. Like for me, that's when 23, 24, I was like,
I was
okay, I
dumb,
need to get
dumb,
serious
dumb.
about
Yeah.
my dating
think
relationship and Jesus and
I think
How long
there's
should you
no
date?
denying that. Generally speaking, godly women will mature faster than godly men in
Absolutely.
their emotional,
wife is so
mental,
much more
spiritual
mature than I
stability. I think for guys, the best advice I ever got was don't start dating. And first of all, dating is for marriage. Dating is not to be like go to the car dealership and test drive a car and see what you like and
test
don't like.
drives.
No,
Okay.
there's no test drives. Second is that you don't date until you're ready for marriage because dating is for marriage. And the best advice were the 3 P's that we talk about a lot.
3 Ps.
This place is pastor, provide,
provider,
and protect.
So you get that,
Ladies,
guys? Pastor, provide, and protect.
Guys, if you can't do those 3 things to the best of your ability, we're not saying you got to have enough money to buy a brand new car and all that stuff. If you can't do those 3 things, then you're not ready to date. And ladies, if he can't do those 3 things, you don't need to date him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plain
And not to mention, I hear
matter
so
what
often
age.
ladies think, well, I can change him. I can change him from who he is today.
No.
If he's not mature, if he's not following Jesus, you're probably not.
And he'll trade his mama babysitting him for you babysitting
yeah,
him.
and to speak to that, let the Lord change him.
Yeah.
You don't change him. I am so thankful that the Lord sanctified me and changed me from the beginning of my dating life to the end of it. And only the Lord could have done that.
Yeah, and
Only the
I would say, people who ask the question of like, how long should you date? All those questions. The longer you date, the better off you are, in my opinion. The more you get to know somebody. So dating longer is better than
Completely disagree with that.
Really? You think like?
Yeah, I
marriage-
I view it like a 2 liter of Coke that the longer it gets all shook up, the pressure builds and
Well, I guess maybe from like I think maybe from
This is off. We don't need to.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna say
there's purity boundaries
I'm
that
gonna
is
say a couple
Hey,
things.
I'm a
too.
virgin.
Hold on, no,
I'm
wait.
a
I get to speak as a dad for a second to you young ladies. I have
all
4
dads.
girls. I have 4 girls. Listen, ladies. Don't be
too.
discouraged.
Me too.
Singleness is better than settling. Okay, remember that, ladies. Don't settle for the wrong guy because it is a life sentence. Same for you guys. Don't marry the wrong person just because you think you're getting older. Singleness is better than settling. And the other thing, ladies, don't date until you're ready to get married. If you date too early, I think all of us have war stories of saying, man, I wish I wouldn't have had that high school relationship, that relationship before my wife, because it was stupid. Okay, now we're going to wrap this thing up. We could talk about this all day long, so maybe we'll have some further conversations about dating. But Ben wants to interrupt me right now with
Subscribe, hit the bell, give us a like.
Always a day.
See you next time.
Yep.